The last time Martha saw her sister Ellen, Ellen was standing on the porch with a gun in her hand, shouting, "If you cross this threshold, I'll shoot." That was 3 years ago. Since then, they hadn't spoken, not by phone, not in letters, not even in thought. Martha had tried her best not to think of Ellen at all. But now, standing before the locked door of the old house on the edge of town, she felt the past rushing back, heavy, like a wet blanket thrown over her shoulders at the worst possible moment. The house was locked, but the key lay beneath the ceramic pot with the withered ivy right where it had always been. Martha knew that. Ellen knew it too. And yet neither of them had set foot here since their mother's funeral. Because this house wasn't just a house. It was the symbol of everything that had shattered their family. Martha stepped inside. The air smelled of dust, old furniture, and something else. Something impossible to name, but that made her heart clench. She walked down the hallway, fingertips brushing the wallpaper she and her mother had once chosen together. Back then, they were still girls. Back then, Ellen shared her candy. Back then, Martha believed a sister was forever. But money has a way of breaking even forever. It all started with a will. Their mother had died suddenly, a stroke, the doctor said. Just 2 days. No goodbyes. No note. Only a lawyer, a folder of documents, and 2 daughters who'd last seen each other at Christmas, and even then, barely spoke. The will was simple. The house and savings were to be split equally. But the savings weren't much. And the house was old, in need of repairs, and property taxes kept climbing. That's when Ellen said the words that changed everything. "I lived with her for the last 10 years. I took care of her. I gave up my job, my personal life. And you? You showed up once a year with a box of chocolates and a smile. So it's not fair to split it 50-50. Martha replied. Mom decided that herself. And if she'd wanted you to have more, she would have written it. She was sick. She didn't understand what she was doing. She was sharp until the very end. And you know it. And so the war began. Not the kind with bullets, but the kind that shatters souls. The kind where every call is an accusation, every letter a threat, and every memory poison. Martha walked into the living room. On the mantel sat an old photograph, Mom in the garden, smiling, wearing a straw hat. Beside her, 2 little girls holding hands. Ellen and Martha. 7 and 5. They'd just built a fort out of blankets and pillows. They believed the world was a place where sisters always protected each other. Now that world had collapsed. She sank into the armchair, the very one where Mom used to read them bedtime stories. It creaked, as if it remembered too. Martha closed her eyes. And suddenly, she heard footsteps. She opened her eyes sharply. Ellen stood in the doorway. They stared at each other in silence. Years had changed them. Gray at the temples, lines around the eyes, weariness in their shoulders. But their gazes remained the same, sharp as knives. I knew you'd come, Ellen said. Her voice was quiet but taut, like a string about to snap. I didn't want to, Martha replied. But I dreamed of Mom. She was crying. She said, why can't you just forgive each other? Ellen snorted. Mom didn't cry. She was strong. And if she'd known what our family became, she'd have died even sooner. Maybe she would have. From shame. Silence. Only the ticking of the clock on the wall, the same one that had measured the time of their childhood. Why are you here? Ellen asked. I want to sell the house. Split the money. And forget all this. Sell it. Ellen stepped forward. This is the only place we were ever happy. You want to erase it from the earth. It's been empty. No one lives here. You left yourself. I left because I couldn't watch you demand your fair share. As if love could be divided into percentages. And you? You demanded more because you took care of her. As if that gave you a right to the inheritance. It gives me the right to respect. Respect isn't bought with caregiving. It's given freely. They shouted, just like 3 years ago. Only this time, no gun. But the pain was the same. Then they fell silent. Martha rose and went to the kitchen. Everything was just as Mom had left it, floral mugs, the old fridge, magnets on the door that read, Love you, and Happy Birthday. She filled the kettle with water and set it on the stove. Ellen followed her in. Didn't sit. Just stood by the door. Remember when we baked pies? Martha asked, not turning around. You always burned the crust. And you always yelled that I was in the way. Because you were. Martha smiled for the first time in years. Remember when we hid in the closet when Dad got angry? He wasn't angry. He was just unhappy. We thought he'd leave us. And then he did. And never came back. And Mom said, now all we have is each other. Ellen looked down. She was right. Then why did we betray her? We didn't betray her. We just forgot. The kettle whistled, slicing through the silence like a blade. They drank tea in silence. Then Ellen said, I didn't want it to end like this. Neither did I. I just felt invisible. Everyone said, you're so caring, Ellen. But no one asked if I was tired. No one offered to help. You'd come, smile, leave. And I stayed, with her pills, her fears, her loneliness. I thought you were stronger than me. That you didn't need my help. Strength doesn't mean absence of pain. Martha nodded. And I felt guilty. For leaving. For building my life while you stayed. And when you demanded more, it felt like you were punishing me for it. I wasn't trying to punish you. I just wanted recognition. You deserved it. They fell silent again. But this time, the silence was different. Not hostile. Just tired. The next day, they cleaned the house together. They carried out old furniture, wiped away dust, opened the windows. Sunlight streamed into the living room for the first time in years. What should we do with the house? Ellen asked. I don't know. Maybe rent it out? Or turn it into a guest house. You're serious? Why not? We could manage it together. Like we used to. Like we used to, Ellen paused. We're not kids anymore. But we're still sisters. Ellen looked at her long and hard, then nodded. Okay, let's try. 6 months passed. They renovated the house, repainted the walls, replaced the roof, planted the same flowers Mom had loved in the garden. They called it the House of Two Sisters. Guests came from all over the country. Some sought solitude, others memories, others simply quiet. Martha and Ellen worked side by side. They still argued sometimes, but not about money. About which pillows were softer, or whether to install a coffee machine in the kitchen. One evening, sitting on the porch with mugs of tea, Ellen said, Mom would have been proud. Yes, Martha replied. She always believed we'd find our way back to each other. Even through money? Especially through money. Because if you can forgive each other after all this, then your bond is stronger than any inheritance. This story isn't about money. It's about how easily we lose the people closest to us when each of us believes we're right. About how pain turns into resentment, resentment into silence, and silence into a chasm. But even the deepest chasm can be bridged if both sides take just one step toward each other. Sometimes that step is just a cup of tea. Sometimes it's a childhood memory. And sometimes it's the willingness to say, I was wrong too. Because family isn't something you divide. It's something you hold together. Even when it feels too late.